Hey everyone, this is Lewis here with East Coast Deer Tips. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new, hit that subscribe button to see more content like this. And today we're going to be talking about how I got tall tines. And we're going to be going through the strategies that I used, what time of the year it was. I'm going to show you a picture of what tall tines looked like when he was in the woods after I got him. We're going to get right into it. So we'll start off, it was back in probably say 2015, you know, going throughout the years, I was having a rough patch. I wasn't seeing anything. And it was on October 31st. It was during the red moon. And basically what happened was I was, you know, driving to my stand like normal, and I had no idea what was about to unfold when I got there. And so basically, this is, you know, we're getting into the rut a little bit. You're starting to see some rut activity going on. And, you know, as I have to walk down the dirt road to be able to cut into where my stand is. And, you know, it was just breaking daylight. And I could hear what sounded like a deer blowing an alarm call. You know, I'm sure everyone's familiar with that. It was blowing an alarm call back there, and I had no idea if it was a buck or if it was a doe. So initially I thought, you know, my hunt was ruined. I thought, you know, the deer back there spooked, and, you know, this was going to be a great start to this year's season too. So I kind of decided, I had my call around my neck. This is it's called an extractor. I picked this up at Walmart. I got both of these deer with this call, and, you know, this isn't sponsored or anything, but this is my go-to call. And what I did is I had it already set on the doe setting, and as I was walking in to the woods, I was just kind of doing a soft contact grunt, you know, a doe bleat, just a soft and I was kind of doing that when I was walking through the woods. And another thing that I was doing is, I'll show you what I was using. This right here, this is the Tank's, you know, doe and heat. It's the, you know, plain and simple, it's doe pee when they're in heat. Plain and simple. But what I did is I created a scenario to where that deer thought, you know, hey, I'm just a doe coming in. I'm doing these soft, you know, contact bleats, basically. And I was sprinkling this as I was walking in to cover my scent trail, because for me, my wind was going the direction that that deer was at. And again, I had no idea if it was a buck or a doe that was on top of the hill next to my stand. I had no idea. So I'm walking through the woods, going, you know, the same trail that I always do. You know, this is on state land, public land hunting. And, you know, I was just throwing this stuff around, and, you know, just was preparing just in case. So I got into my stand, and I decided, you know, okay, now I hadn't heard anything from this deer, nothing. Had no idea. I had an idea of where he was at, he or she was at, but I didn't know if it stuck around, if it took off, you know, had no idea. So I get in the stand. You know, I had thrown all that stuff all over that doe estrus. I threw it all over the place when I was walking in. And I got in the stand, and I decided, okay, now I'm going to do a calling sequence. And if you watched in my previous video about the tending grunts, this is where this came into play really well. So again, you know, I did some long drawn out doe bleats. had that going in all directions, and then I switched it down to the buck. You know, trying to mimic a buck that was chasing a hot doe. And again, this plays out perfectly because little did I know that it was a buck that was on top of that hill right next to my stand. And now I'm hearing leaves crunching and it's coming in fast. So I get ready, you know, just in case for anything. I had no idea what was coming in. And it's just, you know, it's just legal shooting time, just breaking. And so I get my gun up and I can see through it and I can see the horns coming, but you know, I couldn't, there was just some foliage and stuff and I couldn't really quite tell what he was, but all I saw was this big bodied buck that was coming off to my left. And he comes down and he stops right about to the left of where my stand is, and I don't have a shot. I can see it's a buck, and all of a sudden I can see his hair just stand up on end. Like he just, in his mind, you know, he heard the doe that was coming in, and now he's realizing that the doe is in heat and there's another buck that's behind her, and he wasn't having any of that. He bristled right up. I mean, he turned pretty near black. Like he was ready to fight. He was all puffed up, and he comes and he stops. And, you know, I don't have a shot. Like I said, he's off to my left, right in front of me, and he's only about 45, 50 yards out. And so I'm watching him. He picks his head up and he gets a scent of this right here. And I had started, when I came in, when I was walking, I went to the front of my stand, and now this is a good tactic to use. You know, before you get in your stand, go in some areas, just do it real fast, and just take this and throw it out there just to cover your scent cone. And he caught a whiff of that, and he was following it, and he gave me a perfect broadside shot at, I want to say, probably 40 yards. And you know, he didn't, I thought I saw him take off in one direction, but I was using my Savage 30-06 rifle, and I was using a 180 grain bullet. That's, you know, it's a good brush bullet, and where I hunt, that's my go-to bullet, because the 160s and 140s, they just, you hit a limb, you're pretty well done. But these brush bullets, these 180s, is what I used, and I touched one off at 45, 50 yards, like I said, and it dropped him right in his tracks. He might have took one step backwards and piled up right there. And, you know, that's pretty much it. He was pretty early morning buck. He was on his feet. I think that morning it was probably, I want to say, 30-some degrees out. So, you know, you hunt those cold snaps, it'll really pay off. And this was, you know, October 31st, coming into that red moon, so they were already bothered. They were up moving around looking for does, and it might not look like much to people. It might not look much to people, but when you're hunting pressured deer on state land, especially where everybody and their brother shoots pretty much everything they see, whether it's a spike horn or, you know, something really small. And the bucks, they don't have a chance to get that big. That right there for state land is, I think, pretty good, especially for up here in upstate New York. I think that's pretty good for state land. I've had some really nice ones on camera, but when it comes to hunt season, you never see them because they're so pressured. So when you get a crack at a buck like that, it's a good day up here. Here's another picture of him when I had him in the back of my PT Cruiser. You know, sometimes you don't really have a choice. You got to work with what you have. So here's that picture. So if you like the video, you can hit that subscribe button, drop a like, drop a comment on what you think, share some of your guys' stories. I'd love to hear from you guys. And if you want to tune in, I've decided that I want to start posting twice a week now. So I'm going to be posting every Thursday and every Sunday. So if you want to tune back to this channel on those days, I'll have another tip for you or another story for you, and we'll see you back then. Thanks again for watching.